Welcome to Combat Network. Let's jump straight into it. Dark horse contenders, unexpected alliances, and jaw-dropping rivalries. These are the elements driving the MMA world into a frenzy right now. Fighters who once traded heated words are stepping up with surprising acts of sportsmanship, while others fan the flames of controversy by daring to make risky moves in weight classes that could redefine their legacies. It's a whirlwind of speculation, tension, and raw ambition that no fan can ignore. Yet beneath the surface of every dramatic call-out or show of respect, there are hidden motives and real-life challenges that can either elevate a fighter to legendary status or force an abrupt end to a promising career. Today, we're diving into several fascinating storylines, from a rivalry turned friendly to a champion who might cross over to the boxing ring, and from a heated weight class debate to behind-the-scenes coaching drama. If you thought you'd seen it all, prepare to have your expectations shattered. For years, Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw were embroiled in one of the most compelling feuds in the bantamweight division. The tension peaked back in 2016 when Cruz edged out a razor-thin split decision over TJ, seizing his belt and leaving fans debating who truly deserved the win. Leading up to that fateful bout, both men took every opportunity to remind the other, and the MMA world, of their mutual dislike. Insults flew, and each seemed certain that any sign of compromise or friendliness was off the table. But life has a strange way of turning things around. Cruz recently shocked everyone by announcing his retirement, a decision spurred by multiple shoulder dislocations that sidelined him. During the shuffle of seeking medical opinions, Cruz revealed that the once infamous TJ Dillashaw reached out with a recommendation for a specialist, along with genuine sympathy for Cruz's predicament. There was no sarcasm and no belittling, just advice from one top athlete to another, suggesting that whatever animosity they shared might be left in the past. It's a development that feels almost surreal for MMA fans who remember the trash talk and the heated weigh-in showdowns. Yet here we are watching two former foes express respect and a hint of camaraderie. The MMA community, always hungry for drama, can't help but wonder if this truly closes the book on their rivalry or if there could be more unexpected twists ahead. After all, the lines between friend and foe often blur in a sport where competition runs deep. But that's not the only surprising plot twist unfolding right now. Combat sports are no strangers to wild crossover events, but the idea of Alex Pereira swapping 4-ounce gloves for a pair of boxing gloves has tongues wagging. The reigning UFC light heavyweight champion is already one of the most feared strikers in MMA, but recently heavyweight boxing champion Alexander Usyk took it a step further by naming Pereira as a desired opponent in a potential show fight. Typically, talk of MMA fighters stepping into the boxing ring is met with a chorus of skepticism. But in this case, Pereira seems more than intrigued. He's outright confident that he and Usyk could make it happen. The synergy between major boxing organizations and the UFC isn't usually strong. However, Pereira believes times are changing. We've all seen glimpses of collaboration before, and if ever there was a moment for two heavy hitters from different sports to collide, this might be it. For Pereira, stepping into a boxing ring wouldn't be just another fight. It would be an entirely different test of his striking arsenal, and perhaps a chance to silence any doubters who think pure boxers can always outpunch an MMA fighter in their own domain. In the eyes of many fans, though, the real question is whether Pereira can handle the pace and precision of a champion who does nothing but box every single day, year-round. But that wasn't the whole story, because before Pereira can even think of lacing up boxing gloves, he has a major test awaiting him in the UFC's light heavyweight division. And if there's anything we know about this sport, it's that plans can change in an instant. Confirmed matchups, rumored battles, and career-defining trilogy fights are on the horizon. One announcement that has fans buzzing is Miesha Tate taking on Yana Santos at an upcoming UFC fight night. Tate last saw action in late 2023 with a triumphant submission victory, reminding us all that she's still dangerous wherever the fight goes. Meanwhile, Yana Santos recently rebounded from a losing streak with a much-needed unanimous decision win, setting the table for a clash that could reshape the narrative for both women's careers. The GFL also made headlines by scheduling a trilogy bout between Urijah Faber and Renan Barão, a rivalry that once captivated the bantamweight scene. Barão dominated Faber twice before, back when Barão was at the top of the MMA world. But he's been on a downturn lately, enduring a six-fight losing streak that raises questions about his current form. Faber, too, is no stranger to challenges. His most recent outing ended with a knockout loss to a top contender. Still, the mystique of completing a trilogy is tantalizing, even if both fighters are far from their championship days. Sometimes a legacy fight is about more than belts or rankings. It's about closure, pride, and rewriting a narrative that's haunted a career. From the women's bantamweight division to legends seeking to reclaim lost glory, these are just a few of the wars on the schedule. But the tension doesn't end here because some heated debates are sparking friction inside the welterweight and middleweight ranks. And what happened next would shock everyone, especially those who think they can easily jump divisions. Belal Muhammad's confidence has been sky high lately. Not only has he flirted with the idea of capturing the welterweight crown, but he's now talking about moving up to 185 and claiming he could wipe out top contenders like Dricus Du Plessis and Strickland. However, Joaquin Buckley, who knows a thing or two about shifting between weight classes, isn't buying it for a second. Buckley recently fired a stern warning shot, pointing out that middleweights don't just hit harder, they carry a power that can be downright overwhelming for a career welterweight. He also doubts Belal has the wrestling chops to ground bigger men, or the striking power to make them respect him. Buckley, who has tasted victory at welterweight and adversity at middleweight, insists that the higher division is a minefield of heavy hitters ready to punish any fighter who isn't equipped to handle the onslaught. The back and forth between these two underscores a critical point that sometimes gets lost in the hype. While moving up in weight can promise bigger matchups, new challenges, and potential stardom, it also demands a level of physical adaptation. Speed alone isn't always enough to overcome a size disadvantage. And if you can't force your opponent to respect your strikes or fear your grappling, the result could be devastating. Belal's supporters remain optimistic. Some insist he's versatile enough to hold his own anywhere, but the doubts are loud. And if Buckley's predictions prove accurate, Belal's dreams of ruling a heavier division might end before they even begin. Then again, a single upset can flip all conventional wisdom on its head. Fans love to dissect every detail of a high-profile fight, especially when it features two explosive talents like Justin Gaethje and Max Holloway. Their face-off, which ended in a knockout loss for Gaethje, left many claiming that Holloway completely outclassed his opponent. But Dan Hooker, who's scheduled to face Gaethje soon, thinks the story isn't so black and white. Hooker pointed to the broken nose Gaethje suffered early in the fight, an injury that can turn any strategy into survival mode. The subsequent eye pokes further crippled Gaethje's offense, restricting both his vision and his ability to defend effectively. In Hooker's eyes, if those factors hadn't stacked up, the outcome might have been very different. He even went so far as to suggest that if Gaethje and Holloway fought 10 times, each man could walk away with 5 wins, a testament to their matching skill levels and resilience. Such an assessment reminds us that in MMA, a single fight can be deceiving. Injuries and timing play a huge role in shaping outcomes, and a decisive finish doesn't always tell the full story. Hooker's perspective doesn't diminish Holloway's triumph. It merely underscores the razor-thin margins at the highest levels of the sport. For fans, it's a tantalizing thought that these two could rematch under different circumstances, leaving a massive question mark about who would truly come out on top. But this isn't the only case where recent fights have left fans debating what could have been. Far from it. Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez recently faced an uphill battle, suffering a KO loss that exposed the brutal realities of the sport. In the aftermath, he opened up about weight cut issues that hampered his performance. While some might dismiss this as an excuse, RoboCop insists his body simply refused to recover, leaving him depleted when it mattered most. Whether his claims hold true or not, they highlight a recurring theme in MMA. The scale can be a fighter's worst enemy, draining stamina and resilience before the fight even begins. Meanwhile, Chael Sonnen never shies away from making bold statements. This time, he's convinced that Alex Pereira won't stay at light heavyweight for long, win or lose in his defense against Magomed Ankalaev. Sonnen points out that Pereira moved up from 185 only after losing his belt, suggesting the climb to 205 was more circumstantial than a grand plan. If Pereira emerges victorious, he might look for a new challenge at heavyweight. If he fails, he could decide that continuing at 205 simply isn't worth the trouble. It's a theory that, like many of Sonnen's takes, may sound extreme, until it turns out He's right. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson also found himself in the headlines when he mentioned he'd been approached by BKFC. While crossover into bare-knuckle fighting has become more common for ex-UFC fighters seeking new paydays, Thompson firmly rejected the idea. He thrives on using his legs, angles, and traditional martial arts approach. The bare-knuckle format not only strips away his kicks, but also invites the risk of hand injuries that Thompson views as unacceptable. In his eyes, it's a whole different sport that doesn't play to his strengths, nor does it align with the style that made him a household name. But that wasn't the end of the day's surprises, because behind the scenes, coaches and fighters were clashing in unexpected ways. No fight camp is immune to internal politics. Recently, Nicksick stirred controversy by publicly criticizing Sean Strickland's performance against Dricus Du Plessis, calling it lackluster and questioning Strickland's dedication. For many fighters, airing such grievances in a public forum is a massive breach of trust, and Strickland didn't hold back. He declared that Nicksick would no longer corner him, labeling him an influencer for choosing a podcast as his outlet instead of discussing things privately. In a rare moment of self-reflection, Nicksick admitted he miscalculated, saying he only wanted to motivate Strickland, but ended up fueling unnecessary drama. Coaching relationships in MMA can be as complex as the fights themselves. When trust breaks down, both the fighter and the camp can suffer. While it's unclear if this rift will ever fully mend, it highlights a broader truth. What happens between coach and fighter outside the cage can be just as critical as anything that unfolds under the bright lights. Meanwhile, amid all the friction, Khamzat Chimaev's training footage sparked a new wave of speculation. The unstoppable force once rumored to face every top contender from welterweight to middleweight might now be eyeing Dricus Du Plessis and the 185 title. Fans eagerly watch for official announcements, praying to see Boers unleash his relentless grappling and knockout power on another unsuspecting foe. Will he fight for the title next? Or is this just another rumor swirling in the wake of injuries and contract negotiations? Only time will tell, but whichever direction Chimaev goes, the hype surrounding him is unlikely to fade. Belal Muhammad's ambition to jump to middleweight drew not just Buckley's ire but also a scathing response from Dricus Du Plessis. Du Plessis scoffed at the idea that Belal would stand a chance, claiming that the UFC doesn't even favor Belal and would never grant him an immediate shot at 185. To further twist the knife, Du Plessis stated he'd simply step on Belal's head if they ever fought, implying that the size disparity alone would make it a mismatch. When Belal fired back online, posting jabs about Du Plessis' supposed clumsiness and resharing clips of him getting taken down, fans quickly chose sides. Those who see Belal as a skilled technician capable of defying the odds championed him, while skeptics continued to echo Du Plessis' viewpoint that the size and power gap would be insurmountable. In a sport where trash talk can be as important as skill, such exchanges can build massive hype, or crumble under the weight of unrealistic expectations. Either way, the fiery words exchanged between Du Plessis and Belal are more than mere posturing. Both men are determined to secure or maintain a foothold in their divisions, and each is convinced that the other is biting off more than he can chew. Whether this saga concludes with an actual fight remains to be seen, but the seeds of conflict have certainly been planted. And if MMA has taught us anything, it's that today's Twitter spat can become tomorrow's main event. From the shocking show of sportsmanship between Dominic Cruz and TJ Dillashaw to Alex Pereira's potential leap into the boxing realm, the MMA landscape is brimming with unpredictability. Fights like Tate versus Santos promise to test the limits of determination and skill, while legendary showdowns such as Faber versus Barone III tug at the nostalgia of longtime fans. Meanwhile, the question of whether Belal Muhammad can truly conquer middleweight has sparked both mockery and intrigue, fueling a debate over size, power, and fighting IQ. Yet as these stories unfold, deeper tensions bubble beneath the surface. Coaches at odds with their fighters, weight cut ordeals that can unravel a fight plan in moments, and the constant swirl of rumors regarding champions' next moves. The road to glory is rarely straightforward, and sometimes the biggest breakthroughs or betrayals happen when nobody's looking. So, after witnessing the rivalries, the alliances, the call-outs, and the uncertain future of rising stars, one has to ask, which storyline will reshape the MMA world most dramatically? Will it be the unthinkable crossover bout in boxing, A lightning-quick ascent through weight classes, or a surprising show of unity between two old enemies? In a sport defined by split seconds and split decisions, answers often arrive in the most unexpected ways. Stay tuned. This wild ride is just getting started. Until next time, keep your guard up, stay curious, and prepare for whatever surprises the MMA world throws our way.